Hey, hi.
Hello.
So having kind of opened a really beautiful sacred space and felt into the reasons we're here, maybe it would be a perfect way to start to just share a little bit about what this work is and how you came to do it.
So, when I was in my mother's tummy, she was apparently about 3.5 months pregnant with me, and she was in a kind of car accident, and they took her to the hospital, and they said, well, if you were pregnant, you're not now. And so basically they couldn't find a heartbeat or a pulse for me in her tummy. And so my mum was a real kind of spiritual truth seeker. And she really had a lot of faith and a lot of love. In those days, it was all about spreading love, back in the 60s. And so my mum just totally trusted her own intuition and knew that I wasn't dead. And so she wouldn't let them do any procedures on her because she got transferred to another hospital, basically. And they said, okay, you've had a shock. We need to do this. And she wouldn't let them. So 2 months later, I came back online. My heartbeat was there, my pulse was there, I carried on growing and was born after being in the womb for nearly 11 months. Yeah, and that's quite shocking to a lot of people because they think, how can a baby exist for more than 9 months in a body? Well, I tell you, I'm not the only one that's been in the womb for more than 9 months and is, born healthy and normally. So that's one thing in itself. But what it meant for me was that place that I was in for those 2 months, wherever I was, kind of my life kept tugging me back to that experience, really quite profoundly, and I didn't understand it for a while. And it was like not being in my body and yet not being dead, being somewhere in between, and feeling really frightened and really stuck about that. And I've always had issues about feeling connected to my body, that I was very scared I couldn't relate to being in this weird container, and I didn't feel like I belonged on Earth. I couldn't relate to everybody else. I was hypersensitive, hypersensitive, super empathic, more than I realised, was picking up on people's thoughts and all the things that they didn't even remember themselves, I was picking up on. And that just made it really hard to be in the world for me. So, and then, being in this transition state, it's somewhere in between life and death. I felt more connected to spirit, but yet I couldn't go back to spirit. I wasn't dying, I wasn't leaving, I was still here. And I really had to make sense of that. So I suppose that my quest for my own healing brought me to a place where I developed my senses and my intuitive gifts, where I could serve and help other people, and therefore serve and help and heal myself.
So where did the umbrella title or the sense of soul readings come from?
To be honest, I didn't know what else to call it. I played with this for a couple of years, and I don't know. Soul reading, I guess, when I see with my eyes and I hear with my ears, and I'm empathic and intuitive and feeling all these things, but when I use my hands, this was the key thing that really made it come online for me and made me really acknowledge something was happening that I could trust in, that was real, that wasn't me imagining things or, being crazy. When I put my hands on a person's energy field, the invisible force around the body, I could feel the energies and then read them. So it's like I can put my hands on the memory. I call the soul a library for everything that's ever happened to your particular little drop of original source energy, whatever that means to you or anybody else, God, the universe, I don't know what you want to call it, but your infinite little personal, unique soul essence energy. It's a library. Everything that's ever happened to your soul is recorded there in energetic information. So when I put my hand on your energy field, it's like opening time capsules, it's opening memories. And for me, it's like stepping into the movie. I'm in there with those characters. I'm in there with that part of you that's been somehow stuck and trapped in that period of time. And so it seemed like that's what to call it, I'm reading your soul. Which sounds really scary for so many people. What are you thinking? What are you picking up? And I can understand that. That must feel really weird.
So what are some of the benefits of people being able to have their soul read? How does that actually translate into benefits in the world today?
Yeah, well, it would be pretty rubbish, wouldn't it, if you just came along and I just told you, hey, you've got this trauma unresolved and this trauma unresolved, and by the way, in your past life you were hung and murdered and, off you go, see you, bye. That would be pretty mean. So, fortunately, just through practice and tapping in and listening to guidance, you could call that my higher self guidance, my angels guiding me, whatever. And there are a number of labels I could attach to that. But essentially, I listened and was guided by something that gave me tools. And I was taught ways and means of once seeing these things, of then actually resolving them, bringing that traumatic, unresolved, memory or, time capsule or information back into harmony, releasing it from that traumatized state. And a key factor in this was for about 2 years, I had this being sitting by my shoulder here, just telling me what to do and teaching me about the power of acknowledging and witnessing somebody and their pain and their suffering and really seeing it and really hearing it and feeling it with all my senses, full witnessing. That in itself has an effect that's just incredible. And then he taught me all these other things about love and forgiveness and how energy works and how to, I'm not one of these people that pulls it out and moves it around by my will, by what I think should happen, because I don't know if that's the right thing to do or not. So I was listening to this being, and then after a couple of years I was in a session with someone and it's like the cloak came off and Archangel Michael was there. And I didn't even know about archangels and Archangel Michael, but it just was, And I was like, wow! So that's what was teaching me for a long time and showing me how to then bring those traumas and unresolved memories and things that happen to people into a state of healing.
So it sounds almost like you're describing it being brought into the light where it can be witnessed.
Definitely.
And then what? Transformed? Transfigured?
Totally and utterly transformed. Totally and utterly transformed. It's like going into the back cupboards and seeing all the things that your conscious mind did not want to or couldn't deal with. Maybe you were 2 years old, maybe you were in the womb, maybe it was before you even came into this body. You don't remember those things. They're somewhere in the back closets of your mind, but they're still there. And they're having this influence, they're having this constant effect. And most of the time we don't realise why we're being affected or what's affecting us. We just know, I don't feel good, and every time I do this, the same patterns happen. I'm falling in the same hole again and again. I'm trying to do things differently, but I'm getting the same results, and or there's illness happening, or mental illness, or any number of things. And people are like, but I'm trying my best. People want to be conscious. Mostly they want to do something that helps themselves and see things. But there's a whole load of other influences that we're just not aware of. Mm. And it's not our fault that we're not aware of them. So what's, for me, is really useful is to be able to see those things. I mean, for me, it's really easy to look at you or somebody else and see those things. And then go, hey, let's bring this out of the cupboard. Let's polish it up. Let's clean it. Let's put it where it needs to go. Understand it, love it, integrate it, not keep it separate from you or hidden. Let's bring it in and love it. And then just something incredible happens all by itself.
So it sounds like a key piece of it is forgiveness,
yeah,
self-love, illumination,